It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Throw-In. Hi, everyone. Justin here. Hopefully, everyone's had a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I ended up taking a 4-day weekend because listen how Friday went. Friday, I ended up going. We have doctor's appointments early on, and if you guys don't know this schedule by now, let me just kind of run you guys through this, okay? When we go live and we do these episodes, I typically like to make sure that I do episodes first thing in the morning, kind of getting a jump start on the day. And a lot of that is probably because of the ticker. You have games that are being played in the afternoon. You have events like, WWE, AEW. And I really don't like to do a broadcast with those events going on, while we're talking about sports. Kind of like to get prepared leading you guys up to these sports. So I normally do a podcast in the morning or as early in the afternoon as possible. So Friday, we're about 6 weeks. So if you think about this, we're, me and the wife, we're about 6 weeks before we're welcoming in our son. It'll be my third child. It'll be her first. And it's exciting. There's a lot of things. And one thing, if you guys have not experienced, pregnancy or, the delivery process, is that as you get further and further along, you end up doing what's called, or what you have to end up doing is you start going to these appointments every single week. So now she's every Friday, she's in an appointment that she's doing a stress test. On top of the stress test, so basically she goes in and she gets hooked up to a monitor, and they just check the heart rate, the beats per minute, if there's any contractions during that time. And then she goes in to do an ultrasound to really test everything, the fluid inside the sac and everything like that. And then she goes in, and then if that's all clear, she comes back next week and the year after that and the year after that until, she'd deliver, okay, which is right now 6 weeks. And we just started that about 2 weeks ago. And then on top of that, you have her OB appointments. And then, and then those could take time. She just had an ultrasound last week, which was to measure more of the growth and whatnot. So these next few weeks are going to be bombarded with doctor's appointments. On top of that, you got, don't forget, I get the other, I have my other two kids that I, attend, to their events and take them to school as much as possible. And, didn't have them last weekend, but with appointments, with work, I was like, man, I'm a bit drained for the week. So I didn't get a chance to do on Friday's episode, but which is, we're kind of sucks because now we have to come back and do another episode here today. We're actually squeezing a lot in this 2-hour frame. So we're going to wrap up the NFC. And we're going to begin the conversations of the of the AFC, and that's all going to begin today. And then we have some other sports that we're going to kind of, talk into. And if you guys have been following along with the NFC predictions that I've been doing the last couple of weeks, they've been kind of, they've been kind of taking up some time. So I want to dedicate a good amount of time to talk to you guys about these divisions. So hopefully everyone had themselves a good weekend. I know I did. Kind of laid around on Saturday. I didn't have my daughter didn't have a soccer game. There was nothing going on. Kind of just taking it easy. And the wife got me out of the house for the first time in a while because I'm just not someone to get out of the house and just do things. We actually went down to the Newport on the levee and went to watch the WEB and fireworks, which, I will admit that I am, when it comes down to loud noises, I'm a bit more sensitive. And you would find me wearing earplugs, but it was actually very pleasant. And either the earplugs that I had were really, really good, or maybe just the fireworks were not as loud as expected. So I had a great time. First time ever going down there. I will say that it was, other than the heat, I was just, other than the heat, it was a fun time. So, hopefully whatever you guys did, you guys had fun. I was going to do a show yesterday. I was even going to call a ball game yesterday. I was like, yeah, I'm going to take this time and take some me time in the middle of all that. So, anyways, that is all said and done. Let's get down into business because we have to talk about, we got a lot to talk about. So let's kick things off with the Cincinnati Reds beating the Seattle Mariners 6-3 last night on Labor Day. And this is kind of that kind of excitement that we felt. Okay, we took the series against Chicago over the weekend, which I was a bit concerned about, especially considering, because listen, there's no room for error. Let me tell you this right now. Okay, according to the Reds remainder schedule that we have for the next, 4 weeks left of the season. There, I looked at it. There was a couple of games facing teams above 500. Let me see if I can find it here on my notes. Okay. So we took care of, we went 2-2 against the Cubs. We took game 1 against Seattle, which is a 3-game series. We'll take care of we'll have an off day on Thursday after taking care, and then we'll have to go take care of business against the St. Louis Cardinals, who currently sit in last place of the division. Detroit, the Mets, all below 500, so we'll have 9 games. And you hope that the Reds can, hey, they're not playing so well. Let's, listen, the Cardinals, you know what their job is right now for the next month? The Mets, the Tigers, their job is that to face any team that have a contingency spot for a postseason opportunity. Their job is to come in and win a series in hope to prevent them from going to the postseason. And we know that their season's done with. And then we got to face Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So we took care of business number 1, and that was this past weekend against Chicago. I said it was going to be a split series anyways. You had a doubleheader on Friday, which you knew that was dated back from April. So that's in and out of the way with. The good part is that we also got to see the offensive performances from guys that were just recently added to our roster through the claimed by off of waivers, such as Hunter Renfroe and who else? Harrison Bader. Okay. And I mean, I'm very excited to see those guys, to see how they help to contribute to the club. I mean, I know we've been dealing with some injuries out in the outfield. There's just a couple of key at-bats and we go right back down and relying on the bullpen and the starting rotation to really get us out there. What it also provides when you have key at bats, it allows you to bring up some of the guys like Connor Phillips, who's going to get the start for the Reds tonight. He hasn't pitched all day in the major leagues, and he's a top prospect. He's a prospect in our eyes that we expect to go out there. So, but a nice, impressive 6-3 win yesterday. A bullpen day, you guys. Getting the job done, just getting things started with TJ Antone moving down. Spencer Steer hits his is the seventh Reds rookie ever to hit 20 home runs in a season. Seventh Reds rookie ever. Now, I don't know about you, but we're going to look back on this season. Okay, because ultimately this season is designed and hope to help for the future. Right? We're looking at 2024. We're looking at 2025. This season here is designing our ball club, our organization, to fit up to that marker, right? To the next couple of years and the success that we hope to have. Therefore, we're going to look back on this year, and we're going to look back on the memories and say, this is the year that all the rookies came up. This is the year that you have, Ellie De La Cruz came up to the big leagues and had an impressive year. This was the year that Matt McClain was contender runner-up for NL Rookie of the Year. This is going to be the year that Spencer Steer, who hasn't had a light-out year to remember, but Spencer Steer, this is something that you put on the list. The seventh Reds rookie to hit 20 home runs in a season in the first year. So, really great numbers. Another interesting stat list. We'll talk about this, when we talk about historical notes like Spencer Steer. We have to also mention yesterday Julio Rodriguez, who smashed his a home run yesterday out to right center field. Okay, is the first player, okay, in MLB history with two 25-plus home runs and 25-plus stolen bases in each of his first two seasons. I think, we talk about some of the big names out there, okay? And this is going to be a more in-depth conversation for possibly the offseason. But there's names out there that we tie along to. All right, they're going to be a breakout talent star. We had this there was this whole showcase of, all right, Manny Machado going over to San Diego. He's going to break out as a talented star. He's going to do wonder things, and he's kind of panned out. Okay, same thing goes for Juan Soto. Juan Soto was so praised in Washington that the Padres actually picked them up on a blockbuster deal right before the All-Star break, last year, thinking that his success and his mentality that is in Washington is going to transition over to San Diego. And I'm not saying that these are devastating players, but these are definitely not players that are living up to the expectations. And you know what? I'm going to maybe go out and say this. Maybe the expectations of these players are a bit too high. Maybe the expectation of these players are a bit too high. Do we have a high expectation of Julio Rodriguez, who I think is a really good ball player? We never had a high expectation of Derek Jeter to do a lot of things for the organization with New York. We didn't have high expectations of, Todd Frazier for the Reds. I believe that especially I believe that there, we built with us, the fans, us, the analysts, the people who talk on podcasts, on ESPN radio, we build the bar high for a lot of these players to, and the expectations that we have for these players, and it becomes a struggle for them to excel or to exceed. And when the pressure is on you, you do go do a fun couple of great things, and the pressure is now on you. Now you're like, all right, here's a spotlight, take it and run with it. You have to, maybe that's what backs people off. All right. Well, the Reds will be playing tonight. First pitch, 6:40. They'll have right-handed pitcher, who I have here, Connor Phillips, getting his first start of the season. They'll go up against right-handed pitcher Bryce Miller, who's 8-4 with a 3.93 ERA. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that here throughout our program. I'm going to try to paint you guys a picture of how the NL playoff race and the AL playoff race is working. Okay, if you look at it right now, Cincinnati's neck and neck with Arizona, who is holding the last spot of that wild card. Chicago Cubs are 3 games up. Philadelphia Phillies are 5.5 games up right there. The Miami Marlins are only half a game back, and the Giants are a game back. San Diego is kind of 6.5 games back, kind of in it, but we're still trying. Nothing I think too promising. And I really don't know. I mean, you're in the last month. Anything could happen. A crazy month of September is going to have to go down. Okay. On the other hand, over there in the American League, we got Baltimore, Seattle, Minnesota. Tampa Bay has a comfortable 6.5 game lead above the wild card. Houston now holds a 1 game lead after they beat the Texas Rangers 13-6 yesterday. Toronto's on the outside looking in with a half game back. 4.5 games back is the Red Sox. The Yankees are 8 games back. So that's kind of how we're looking at the postseason as of right now. If it would end today, Pittsburgh beat Milwaukee, Philadelphia beat San Diego, Arizona beat Colorado. If you're looking at for a Reds perspective, okay. Not only I'm watching the Reds and the Mariners tonight, but I'm also tuning into and keeping an eye on what's happening in Colorado and Arizona later on tonight at 9:40 for their first game. Okay. You also there's also a nice little battle going on between Houston and Texas for that wild card, and see how they conflict, because Houston can knock out Texas, who has been dominating that American League West all year long. So you got to love baseball in that way. All right, we're just getting started here on our program. If you guys are watching us live on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page or on our Twitter page, welcome in. Hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and get involved in our conversations, okay? By heading on over to our YouTube page, leaving comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are when it comes down to the Cincinnati Reds. Do they have a chance at the postseason? Who's going to be the final wild card team to enter in October baseball? And was the Hunter Renfroe Harrison Bader deal a good deal for the Reds? That's that type of stuff I want to know. I want to hear from you guys. So comment on, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single episode. Have those notifications on. You guys could download us and take us on the road with you wherever you go on any audio platforms at the throw-in. If you guys miss anything of any episodes, any details, any blogs that we post, please check out our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, let's take a time out of the afternoon. Come on back, and we will talk some NFC West to wrap up the NFC predictions and previews. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Inside your bedroom, we stopped counting the days, lost in the rhythm. Physical silence, no need to speak a word, lay here beside me. Don't wanna move too fast, your lips on my flask, sipping on your love, sipping on your love. I never dared to ask if we're gonna last. I'm needing all your love, needing all your love. Oh, when you, oh my God, you know you're playing your cards so right. Oh, I was looking for hearts, just in the dirty clubs and diamonds. Take me, oh my God, oh, but we'll hold our faces straight. Oh, I was looking for hearts, I was looking for hearts. Blood is pumping, I feel it in your veins, surfing your heat waves. Your taste is different, somehow it makes me brave, chemical nature. Don't wanna move too fast, your lips on the flask, sipping on your love, sipping on your love. Oh, when you, oh my God, you know you're playing your cards so right. Oh, I was looking for hearts, just in the dirty clubs and diamonds. Take me, oh my God, oh, but we'll hold our faces straight. Oh, I was looking for hearts, I was looking for hearts, hearts, hearts. I was looking for hearts, hearts, hearts. I was looking for hearts. Oh my God, I'm a fool. Thought I'd never fall into you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so cruel how I'm loving the things you do. Ooh, yeah. Oh, when you, oh my God, you know you're playing your cards so right. Oh, I was looking for hearts, just in the dirty clubs and diamonds. Take me, oh my God, oh, but we'll hold our faces straight. Oh, I was looking for hearts, I was looking for hearts, hearts, hearts. I was looking for hearts, hearts, hearts. I was looking for hearts. Your lips on my flask, sipping on your love, sipping on your love. I was looking for hearts.
Alrighty, 325 here on the program. Want to give a big shout out to our friends at StreamYard Studios, which is the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk Show. StreamYard Studios create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Yes, I'm still planning on trying to get my first baseball game in. I want to pick out interesting ones. There's a couple of interesting games yesterday. One was the Giants and Cubs, where the Cubs shut out the Giants 5-0, very big win. And then it was the Astros and the Rangers. Now I'm kind of looking at the schedule. I've been looking at the schedule a little bit here and there. So if I was going to call a upcoming game, it would be this afternoon. It'd probably be tomorrow afternoon, probably the earliest if possible, at 4:10 between the Padres and the Phillies. You have a 2:20 Giants and Cubs game. I probably won't be able to call that one. We also have the Astros and Rangers at 8 o'clock. That may be more of a favorable game. I want to call games that are in competition to how the playoff race is going about. So there's a possibility that we may be calling a game tomorrow afternoon. But stay tuned to see how all that works. Okay? You got to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single ball game. Okay? But I tell you what. All right, we got to continue and wrap up last week's NFC conversation. We left you off on Friday because we didn't do the episode. We got to talk about the NFC East now. The NFC East, the West. The NFC West, I think, is probably in conversation to being one of the better divisions in the NFC conference alone. Okay, you got the Rams, you got the 49ers, you got the Cardinals, and you got the Seahawks. Now, I'm going to be honest with you for a moment, and I don't quite know exactly where Arizona fits among this totem pole besides being at the bottom. I don't see them making forward progress at succeeding and improving their roster, improving their playability, and therefore I believe strongly that the Arizona Cardinals will probably be placed at the bottom of this division. Now, last year we saw San Francisco dominate this division. I think it was a compelling, competitive division, very, very compelling. To argue, but I do believe that San Francisco has the opportunity at staying up top. Okay, the only problem that I see with San Francisco is that they started off the season with Trey Lance, who now, according to 2 weeks ago, got traded to Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, which made it interesting conversations, but you kind of get rid of what you thought, or at least what the 49ers thought last year, was their bottom dollar franchise quarterback moving forward. Remember last year, they were going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They re-signed him as a free agent last season, right before the season started, as a backup quarterback. Well, thank goodness he did, because Trey Lance went down with an injury, who then therefore got put on the shelf for the remainder of the year. What did that mean? Well, that meant that Jimmy Garoppolo had to hold down the fort, and he did quite well until he got injured as well. Okay, so it wasn't his playing ability. It was him simply getting hurt. And it seems like that's been the pattern every year in San Francisco. We'll talk about Jimmy Garoppolo later on this week. But now it's all about Brock Purdy, who the fans love, okay? Paul Heyman loves Brock Purdy. Why wouldn't you love him? I mean, he came in, replaced Jimmy Garoppolo, held the same thing, held the same standard for the 49ers, taking them into the NFC Championship game. Well, then he gets hurt. And because the NFL didn't have this new rule where now you can have an emergency quarterback that's not included on your 30-man roster or 53-man roster, decided the difference of whether or not San Francisco could have went to the Super Bowl. So do the San Francisco with Brock Purdy, with no Jimmy Garoppolo because he's in Las Vegas, with no Trey Lance because he's sent over to Dallas. Brock Purdy who proclaims now he's healthy. Okay, it is now going to come into this season with the utmost, top tier, head honcho. Hey, I'm the quarterback now. You got Sam Darnold as a backup, and I think he's a good backup. I think that's all he is a decent backup. My fear with the 49ers, you get into the dog days, is that we really don't know too much off Brock Purdy. Same thing I will say about Trey Lance last year. We don't know too much about Brock to establish an opinion saying that he's ready for a everyday starting position. Yeah, he held himself pretty well at the end of last year. But now you're asking him to take the ball at the beginning of the season and march 18 weeks plus another 4 or 5 weeks and a hope and a chance that the 49ers could win a Super Bowl. Last time I remember the 49ers went to the playoffs had to be in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago, which they failed miserably. So does San Francisco hold that NFC division? I strongly feel so. But it's not going to come out without the cost of the Seattle Seahawks, who got rid of Russell Wilson, wished upon a star on Geno Smith, and said, all right, hey, listen, it's either we're going to rebuild or we're going to have success. And guess what? They had success. Now, the surprising team, and I mean, it wasn't surprising because the Rams won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But it came in a little bit of alarm that the Rams did not have the same season they had 2 years ago. They wanted to repeat it. Why held them back? Well, it was injuries. So this year we're going to see, is injuries holding up? Are they capable of having themselves a bounce back year? So let's get right down into it. All right, we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals schedule, which like I said, I don't believe that the Cardinals will go anywhere this year. Okay. Matter of fact, I don't believe the Cardinals are going to get anywhere better in the next 3 to 5 years, in my opinion. Unless you go out there and you pick up a desperate quarterback. And you know what? And you may need it. But I personally believe that the Arizona Cardinals are probably going to finish at the bottom of this total pool. They kick things off week 1 against Washington on the road, as I got them losing. They lose against the Giants week 2, and another loss to the Cowboys in week 3 against the 49ers, another loss in week 4 against the Bengals. It better be a loss. Against the Rams, another loss. The Seahawks, a loss. Baltimore, loss. They go 0-8. And then the first game, I think that they will actually pick up an impressive victory against the Cleveland Browns on the road. Yeah. That's a bold statement. Week 10 comes into play. They pick up a victory over the Falcons, losing to the Rams, and picking up a victory over the Steelers on the road. Actually, excuse me. Week 10, they will pick up a victory over the Falcons, lose to the Texans on the road, beat the Rams at home, and then losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers before a bye. Okay, that looks more like it. And then you lose the remainder of the 4 weeks that you had against the Giants, the Bears, the Eagles, and the Seahawks. And see, I mean, even I got to share some love against the Texans. Now, I'm not saying that the Cardinals would finish off 3-14, but I really don't have them favored in really showing anything promising this year. So I got the Cardinals down at the bottom of the division, flat out 3-14 on the season. All right, let's move over to the Los Angeles Rams. As I mentioned, last year was more so of a disappointment in the sense that the Rams just could never get the job, could never be synced up together. They've always found some way to be injured. They always found some way to be banged up, and they played hey, I'm barely surviving above water. Baker Mayfield comes in because Matthew Stafford's hurt, and he goes down with an injury. And it really turned out that the Matthew Stafford injury really hurt the Rams last year. Baker Mayfield comes in after having a terrible experience against in Carolina. And he kind of holds his ground a little bit, but it wasn't enough to get the Rams back to a postseason. Now, if everyone stays healthy for the Rams this year, I'm hoping that the Rams could have a bit of a different turnout. But that means they would have to beat their division, which I think that's one thing that the Rams truly struggle at. They lose opening day this Sunday in Seattle against the Seahawks. In my predictions, they will come back and beat the 49ers at home, followed by a Monday night loss at Paycor Stadium against the Bengals. They beat the Colts before losing to the Eagles. After beating Arizona and Pittsburgh in week 6 and 7, they'll go on and lose 5 consecutive games in the Cowboys, Packers, Seattle, and Arizona, and Cleveland, and Baltimore. That's 6. Count 6 consecutive games, include in 7 weeks, because you have the week bye there in week number 10, before they will pick up a victory against the Washington Commanders. Week 16, they will pick up a victory on a Sunday night game against the New Orleans Saints, followed by 2 losses on the road to wrap up the year against the Giants and the 49ers. I think, depending on how the Rams season goes this year, my question coming for the Rams is, do you keep Sean McVay? Is he a good enough head coach to stick with? I mean, he's a young coach. Is he a good enough head coach to stick with throughout these tough times? And one of the big, Stan Kroenke, all about the winning and losing. Well, the problem I see in Los Angeles is that everyone's scratching their heads. They talk so highly of the Rams, how they're such a great team, but you yet to see how successful they can be. Now, we talk about statistics. Majority of statistics lead to successful teams do not typically repeat the next year. And we saw that out of the Rams. The Super Bowl defending champions didn't even make the playoffs, and that's typical. But now we're kind of hitting that reset mark. So can the Rams hold off? I mean, the NFC West has an argument of being a better competitive division than even the East. But with the problems in San Francisco that I have concerning, I'll talk about it in my next segment, and the injuries that we lurk in Los Angeles have me to believe that the East is well more put together. I even think the Washington Commanders are more well put together than the Arizona Cardinals. But I digress, because that's my prediction. Coming up next, we will wrap up the NFC West conversation with the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks schedule preview predictions, as well as my overall NFC predictions of 2023. Take you to the bottom of the hour. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. going on, everyone? Justin here from the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to you, the listeners. That's right. Without you guys, none of this is possible. I would also like to take the time and invite you out to our merchandise page, thanks to T Public. Our merchandise page is where you can find all of our brandings from the Throwing, which is currently active weekly, to the TNC Sports Talk official brands, to either the prior shows that was part of the TNC Sports Talk Foundation. Within all the brandings, you can select t-shirts in both men and female sizes, apparel such as hoodies, kids onesies, kids t-shirts, phone cases, notebooks, coffee mugs. They have a vast majority. This is why I love T-Public. And right now, if you spend $80 or more, you get free shipping. And so we want to invite you out to our merchandise page by heading on over to tpublic.com/user/TNC-sports-talk, or even using the QR code up in the right-hand corner. We want to thank you guys again, the listeners, for supporting us, and we hope to see you guys out wearing our merchandise. You know, the last week of non-football for the remainder of the year has officially surpassed us. NFL kicks off September 7th of 2023, where the Detroit Lions are on the road week 1, taking on Kansas City Chiefs. Kickoff is at 8:20, followed by a whole lot of action on Sunday. Let's not forget Monday Night Football, Bills and Jets. We'll talk about that as the week progresses. And we'll give you our final week predictions later on this week, probably coming to you guys on Thursday. All right. We're continuing in the conversation of the NFC West, where we break down the two schedules that remained here. San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, what's interesting about this division is that the 49ers have the opportunity to be successful that they were last season. San Francisco has cut out their legs in Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Now, we're going to see this year exactly how true is Brock Purdy. How good is he actually? And like I said, I don't want to say nothing bad about Brock. Okay. He held his ground very well. Reminds me of how Cooper Rush did back when last year when Dak Prescott went out. So I'm actually intrigued to see what Brock brings to the table. But is that enough? Because you still made some changes last year to go up against the Seahawks, which I think are the two teams in the NFC that are in the NFC West that are going to really stand out the most. Because Geno Smith and the Seahawks are realistically just taking whatever they had last year, improving it, and carrying it on until next year. So let's get into that conversation here. San Francisco 49ers, week 1. And I think they're actually going to have a nice, comfortable year this year. Taking on the Steelers on the road, I don't have no doubt that they'll pick up the victory. I think the Steelers and Kenny Pickett will get off to a slow start. They'll still have, I think, a 500 a year, but they'll get off to a slow start. Week number 2, they'll lose against the Los Angeles Rams, followed by 2 weeks of winning against the Giants and the Cardinals. 49ers will lose against the Cowboys, because I've said this last week, and I'll say this again. I feel that the San Francisco 49ers struggle against the Cowboys throughout the course of the regular season, even though they're at home in this game. And it is a Sunday night football game, by the way. I just feel like they're going to struggle. They're going to lose. They'll pick up the victory against the Browns in week 6, followed by a win against the Vikings in week 7 before the 49ers lose in week 8. Now, and then they have a bye in week 9. Now, the first half of the season seems fine and dandy. Okay? It comes down to this back half of the season where I feel like it depends who your quarterback is. Jacksonville to pick up a victory. If it's Brock Purdy, they should be beating Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield's still the quarterback halfway through the season with Tampa Bay. They'll lose against Seattle, lose against Philadelphia. They'll beat Seattle at home in week 14. They'll beat Arizona in week 15, and they'll lose against Baltimore. Think about that. That's 1, 2, 3. That's 5 weeks facing a bird. Can't help but laugh. They'll pick up a victory over the Washington Commanders, and then to finish off the season, they'll pick up a victory against the Rams, making it 11-6, but just shy of the division. Because the Seattle Seahawks, I actually have predicting going 12-5. Just a 1-game advantage. The Seahawks will pick up the first 7 victories of the season. They'll take you past the bye in week 5. So you got the Rams, the Lions, the Panthers, the Giants, the Bengals in a victory, the Cardinals and the Browns before you lose in week 9 against the Ravens. You go on to beat the Commanders, Rams, and 49ers afterwards. The Seahawks will go on like a little 4-game skid in Dallas, in San Francisco, against Philadelphia, in Tennessee, before picking up the victory against the Steelers and the Cardinals. I got a question to ask you guys. How do you guys feel about teams, or your team particularly, having the bye week early on in the season or having the bye week at the very end? Because I've noticed so far, predicting in the my predictions and looking at the schedule throughout the NFC so far, I've seen, for example, Seahawks is in week 5. Okay. Seahawks is in week 5. I've seen some teams in week 4. I've seen some teams in week 14. And it's kind of hard because it's unpredictable. I honestly prefer, if I had to choose, if I had the option, I would like my bye week somewhere between week 8 and week 12. Preferably the later, the better. The only problem is you get anything past Thanksgiving. Okay, anything past Thanksgiving as a bye week. The struggle that I see you having is that if there's any momentum that you build, it's a bit more complicated continuing that build. But if you it would help if you had a bye week at week 4 or week 5, because you got to go back to reassess. But then you have that, and especially if you have an injury or something like that falls under the wayside. But then you run into the back end of the schedule where you get into the, really dog days, and you're winded, you're gassed. Right? Because you think about it, 6 games for me, 6 weeks of football, actually, you don't get a bye. And then expect to play in the postseason, especially if you're a wild card team. So, I don't know. I want to kind of hear what you guys have to say about, if you guys had to choose, which one would you favor on a bye week? Front half, the back half, or right there in the middle. All right, let's get to the predictions of the NFC in general. Out there in the East, the Eagles I predict that the Eagles are going to go on and hold this division. I mean, I think the Cowboys, with Trey Lance now heading to Dallas, I think for me, there shouldn't be no reason why Dallas shouldn't run the division, but I don't think that they're quite there just yet. I think that the Eagles are going to look to repeat themselves. Now, like I said, here's the interesting note, right? The statistic says that teams who go to the Super Bowl don't typically return back to the Super Bowl, which therefore the Bengals, who didn't return back to the Super Bowl, the Rams, who did not return back to the Super Bowl, and now the pattern goes back into, well, the Eagles most likely will not return back to the Super Bowl. Okay, I mean, we still saw the Bengals with success. There's a couple exceptions because Kansas City, they just, you have those exceptions where they're just a dominant team, and Kansas City is that dominant team year in and year out. So I got Philadelphia winning the East. But if you notice, I marked some X's down there. That means the Cowboys and the Giants I have finishing off as a wild card standings, which is actually impressive because the Cowboys will have the same record as the Seahawks, in my opinion. So, 3 teams coming out of the East. The Packers will stand alone in the North. The Saints will stand alone. And maybe I'm over-exaggerating when I put the Saints having a 13-4 record. But unless they're losing against their division, Derek Carr. Here's my thing about Derek Carr. First of all, he's claiming that the Saints offense, the Saints team is resemblance the very same as when he signed that contract deal to play with John Gruden. Okay, and now since that's all been a wayside, he says he feels like he's back at home, which means that he should be having success. And this is a division to have success in. You got Bryce Young, who is still learning. You got Riddle, whoever the quarterback is in San Francisco. Tampa Bay is Baker Mayfield. And one thing when I look at the NFC all around, you look at maybe even where the Rams could even be in this position. Okay. The 49ers, I think, are in this position. Buccaneers are in this position. Who else? Maybe the Cowboys are in this position as well. The position I'm talking about is about having a quarterback option throughout the course of the year. 49ers have Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. Cowboys have Dak Prescott and Trey Lance. Okay. If Baker Mayfield with Tampa Bay, how long do you give Baker Mayfield? He failed you as a quarterback against Carolina last year. So he jumped up and someone picked him up. The Rams picked him up midway through the season because, Matthew Stafford went down and you need someone to replace him. And Mayfield was the guy. But how long do you honestly give Baker Mayfield this year an opportunity at being your starting quarterback for the Buccaneers if he does not perform? Do you give him the entire season and say, listen, I don't have any other options? Do you maybe argue and say, all right, Baker, I'm giving you half the season. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you 4 weeks. And if you can't, you're going to be on a short leash. If Brock Purdy comes out and he's not the quarterback that we expect him to be, does Sam Darnold just jump in week 6 and say, I'll take it from here? And would San Francisco be biting, their own tail saying that? We still don't even know how Jordan Love is going to handle as a starter of the season because he's been prone to be the backup quarterback. I mean, for all we know, Packers could be dead last and have maybe 4 or 5 wins on the season. And Jordan Love is not the starter that everyone in Green Bay hopes and dreams about. Geno Smith could have the only reason, maybe Geno Smith, the only reason why he's, is so good is because Seahawks schedule is not so bad. Is pretty bad. Is Matthew Stafford is he that good of a quarterback that go in and win a Super Bowl, or is he the Detroit Lions quarterback that we used to know and see and be accepted with? And I think the same thing goes with the Dallas Cowboys. All right. Yeah, Daniel Jones got paid, Jalen Hurts got paid. You got 2 quarterbacks that know that they're comfortable in their position. Dak Prescott, I'm sorry, but if I'm Dak Prescott, I'd be a bit worried about my job. And if I don't perform and I slip up, then there's a chance that I may get cut or may get pulled throughout the course of the game. Now, this also opens up to a couple of different options. Now, I don't see this quite often in the NFL, but using a quarterback as a receiver, as a halfback, as a tight end, whatever the case may be, to kind of do some flea flickers and the snot pullers and all that stuff. That's I would love to see that this year. But that means Dallas Cowboys have to be very creative offensively. All right, so I got the Eagles followed by the Saints, then the Seahawks and the Packers as your division winners. Cowboys, 49ers, and the Giants in the wild card. As of right now, I'm going to wait, and I'm the type of person that's going to wait until the postseason to really tell you. The one thing I could probably be certain for the first and foremost is that I really don't believe too much in the Eagles returning back to the Super Bowl. My percentage of the 49ers going back to the Super Bowl probably went down just a bit. Do I think the Packers or the Saints going to the Super Bowl in the first year? No, I highly doubt it. But this is weird. The reason why NFC, I just think that there's a lot of change in the NFC, and I don't find it as competitive as what the AFC has to hold. All right, that is my NFC predictions. Coming up in hour number 2, I'll begin the AFC predictions with the East. We'll take a look at the Bills, the Dolphins, Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets. Let's not forget about the Bill Belichick. Is he done? Well, let's come back on the top of the hour. Talk about Aspiring Glow. My good pal Tony over there. And let's talk about the 2 big news coming out of the wrestling world as of this past weekend and yesterday. Hour number 2 coming up. You guys are listening to The Throwing here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions, we'll get away. This is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited
Alrighty, top of the hour here on the program. This hour of the Throw-In is given to you thanks to Spreaker from iHeartRadio, where you can upload your own podcast. You can distribute it among all major platforms such as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, so much more. And be able to view your analytics and be able to monetize your podcast. Check out their free option today at StreamYard.com. All right, talking about a couple of different things. Very big. Working alongside a friend of mine that operates a local store in my area. It's called Aspire and Glow. He is it's a business right next to La Rosa's in Crescent Springs, all right off of Buttermilk, off the 51 in northern Kentucky. If you guys, I'd encourage you guys to stop by, say hi to him, see what he has to offer. All these cool new collectible things that you just can't find anywhere else, and at affordable prices. Well, we opened up a website recently, and like to take a moment to talk about his website. You could check out his website at www.aspireandglow.com. That is www.aspire-glow.com. And that's where you're going to find a lot of his own products that he sells. Anywhere from jackets to backpacks to hoodies, okay, shoulder bags, blankets, bracelets, necklaces, jewelry, jewels, and gems. A tongue twister there. Mainly known for his tie-dye t-shirts, all sizes here. And here are some featured products, but I encourage you guys to check out his website yourself and find the perfect gift for someone coming up this holiday. Take advantage of their buy one get one 25% off on bracelets throughout the month of September with promo code 25 bracelets. That's 25 BRACELETS bracelets throughout the month of September with that promo code. It's buy one get one 25% off. So it's kind of offer that. Invite you guys out there to check out what he has to offer. Great person to me. All right. Before we jump back into football, before we jump into the AFC East to talk about Bill Belichick and Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen's, hooray. All right. Wrestling news. A couple of things coming out of wrestling news. We'll just address the one out of the other. CM Punk gets released from the AEW. Over the weekend, Tony Kahn, AEW CEO, makes a announcement, okay, indicating the release, the termination of CM Punk from his contract of duties. This all was because of an altercation in the backstage of AEW's All In Wembley. Okay. And I guess this was with Jungle Boy. I guess Jungle Boy made a reference during his match at the kickoff show that like prompted like this is real glass or something like that. Apparently it was directed towards CM Punk. CM Punk did not take it well. After the match, both of them got into a confrontation backstage, which basically, from my understanding, from what I've read, Punk and Samoa Joe was the first to open up the show. That still happened, but there was a chance that they probably was not going to open up the show because of the confrontation. And according to Tony Khan in his statement, this was the first time that Tony Khan felt scared that, of being in the backstage area. And, we talked about this last week. I told you guys, I was like, And this goes back to the podcast on Armchair Brooklyn Wrestling Podcast I was on a couple weeks ago, or about a month or two ago, matter of fact, that asked the question, when is it time that for a company or for a talent, athlete, superstar, employee, when is it time just to depart ways? And apparently for Tony Khan, this was the time. I don't hate CM Punk. I will say that time and time again. As a matter of fact, I will down the road say that CM Punk is a future Hall of Famer. Okay, because the stuff that he is able to do in the ring was entertaining. I was enjoyed when he wrestled. I enjoyed watching him. But I don't feel, especially with AEW over this past year, it's time and time and time again where you just put CM Punk with anything going on backstage, whether it's good or positive. And guess what? Lately it's been, bad. And when you just have that much problems with one person, all right, I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to go pretend that I do know what it is. I could go make assumptions of what I think it could be, but I'm just going to be making an ass, and I'm not willing to do that on this program right this moment about CM Punk, who now does not have a job. I don't know. That means no more Ring of Honor, no more AEW. He's not going back to WWE, and I'm sure WWE is following those breadcrumbs of problems that he's had with AEW. So if he's looking to wrestle, what do you do? Because I'm also certain that I got these are new glasses. I got the glare on them. Anyways, it is certain that you go to New Japan, I'm certain that New Japan is pulling up his resume and contacting Tony Khan and asking Tony Khan what was his problems and were they capable of being avoided. Do you think Impact Wrestling is going to sign CM Punk? I think CM Punk's days inside the ring is numbered. I'm not saying that they're over. I just think they're very numbered. And I don't feel like this is a story where CM Punk can say, oh, well, I'm going to leave on a positive note. And a lot of times you want that from an athlete, but you're not going to get that from an athlete. And not in this situation. So, hey, I wish CM Punk the best of luck. Okay? But it is what it is. And you know what? CM Punk could sit there and point fingers at us, at us sitting here behind the microphone talking about him. CM Punk could sit here and say, whatever he wants to say. But guess what? What we're talking about you now is that you've been fired because apparently you cannot control yourself and you have issues backstage with talent. But guess what? And I'm sorry. If you want to also argue that maybe you're better than this talent, that's a bunch of bullcrap. I digress. So listen, like I mentioned, I wish CM Punk the best of whatever he chooses to do. Okay? But it's for the best. And I think now there's a bit of a relief knowing as a wrestling fan, knowing that CM Punk is not, we don't have to worry about what's coming out after Tony Khan, with AEW. Okay, cool. I'm kind of a bit of relieved. On some positive news, Gunther. Okay. Gunther, on the other hand, officially becomes the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time after defeating Chad Gable back on Monday. And I got to say about Gunther here, okay? I feel like the last few months, I feel since WrestleMania, it has been a drag to wait for the day that Gunther could surpass the Honky Tonk Man and become the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. Congratulations to him, and I think he does deserve it. Okay, don't give him. I mean, his capability in the ring. He's not the biggest man. He's not the toughest man, but he has the willpower. He has the effort. I like what his style of wrestling. He's had some incredible matches with Drew and with Sheamus over the time, and so I definitely think that he deserves it. Especially it puts a lot better story on when he, the next person who tries to break that record. So kudos to him. But I feel like the last couple months have really been a drag in just holding out to being who could beat him next. I really hoped for Drew McIntyre for being someone who could defeat him. But now I guess maybe that is the ultimate question, right? Who is going to defeat and dethrone Gunther and that Intercontinental Championship? Right now, is there anyone in that roster that can? And there was I referred this back around when I talked about this particular person to relate him to beating Roman Reigns, right? You talked about who's going to dethrone Roman Reigns. So why? I'm just going to hypothetically throw this out there. Braun Breaker. When I think of a guy that could possibly dethrone Gunther and become the Intercontinental Championship, I don't see a whole lot going for Braun Breaker right now. Judgment Day has all their titles, and maybe that this could be a first look of the IC title as a WWE title on Braun. Nonetheless, just a title on him and get him on the main roster some point. I'm waiting for that. But whoever it's going to be, I think it has to be rememberable. I think it also has to be big, and I don't think it's going to be anything bigger than maybe probably it's not going to be probably around some Survivor Series, in my opinion. But congratulations to Gunther for becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental champion of all time. Let's take a break. When we come on back, we're going to talk about the AFC and the AFC East. You guys are watching The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Looking back at the good times before it all went down. Climbed right up on the hillside, a different view of my life. You left me running on and on, but I don't care, would you let me in? You said goodbye like everything's gone, everything that we could have been. I'm your liability.
Alrighty, 420 here on a Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully everyone is doing fine on this Tuesday. I want to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. A big day coming up here in just a little over 48 hours. Adds in Game 1 of the NFL season gets underway Thursday on NBC. September 7th. Kickoff is at 8:20 between the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. Watch Patrick Mahomes take on Jared Goff in a Thursday night showdown. I'm excited. I'm excited for some NFL football to be back. And like I said, there is an argument, in my opinion, that states the AFC is just overall in general the better division, better conference to hold. And when I looked at the NFC and their conference, what I saw was a bunch of teams that almost look like they don't know what they're doing. When I look at the NFC, you have a couple of teams that are maybe uncertain or unconfident about the way that their team is going to go down. You take a look at, like I said, the 49ers. So I really do believe that they are so unconfident that they got rid of Trey Lance. Dallas Cowboys. They're ready, I think, low key, without it openly admitting that they're at fault or anything like that. I think that they are gonna sit there and say, all right, I don't think that if Dak Prescott doesn't work out, I got Trey Lance I could back off of. Jordan Love, I mean, I know, listen, the Packers are sealed on Jordan Love. And I'm not saying that Jordan Love is not going to be a good enough player. I have high hopes for him. But I also believe that, he may or may not turn out. So there's a lot of the may or may not scenarios when it comes down to the NFC. And the AFC, on this hand, I think it's the quite opposite. I mean, the Jets get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Bills have Josh Allen. Joe Burrow's in Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson's with Baltimore, and he just re-signed his contract extension. So I don't feel like you'll have a worry about that. But we'll talk about the AFC North tomorrow. Trevor Lawrence to be sealed deal in Jacksonville, as well as Justin Herbert with the Chargers. You also got Jimmy Garoppolo, looks like he's fitting comfortably with the Raiders. Russell Wilson looks to bounce back with Sean Payton. Okay. The Colts and the Texans are looking to rise to the occasion. I strongly believe that the AFC is the better competitive competition. They're the conference to watch out for. We're going to see a lot of exciting games that might not necessarily get brought down to the ground and to the trenches like the AFC used to be known for. We're going to test the arms of a lot of these quarterbacks that are proclaiming that they are better than the others. And we're going to figure out just who's that better quarterback. Patrick Mahomes gets to welcome in a gets to welcome Aaron Rodgers, which I think is phenomenal. Hopefully at some point this year. I think they do. I think if I was looking at it, it was week number 4. We're going to get Aaron Rodgers and we're going to get Patrick Mahomes in the third down. Now, I think, okay, so like let's go down to the AFC particularly. Josh Allen believes that he's capable, that he understands that he's going to have to make changes in order to keep himself relevant and at the top of his level as a quarterback. And that's great that he understands his role and his fatigue and saying, hey, I'm not the same quarterback I used to be. I'm not going to be able to sprint, run out of pocket, take your chances down the field, physically. I'm going to have to sit back in the pocket a little bit more. I'm going to have to scramble out of the way. I'm going to have to make a play come to me instead of going out there to make a play. And that's how I'm going to have maximize my longevity in this league. And I get that. Great. You understand it. But now it's time to apply that to your actual playing throughout the course of the season. I still think that he's at the top of his game. I still think that the Bills overall in general are going to be a big factor on how this AFC is going to turn out, not just the division. Although Aaron Rodgers moved to the Jets, I don't believe that changed too much. Maybe the middle class part. Maybe it just moved the Jets out of last place, per se. So it was great watching the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited about the Buffalo Bills. I'm a fan of the Bills. Okay, DeMar Hamlin's going to be returning, which is exciting to see. And I can't wait when he hits the field Monday night and he plays against the Jets and we get to give him a standing ovation. Aaron Rodgers is taking that chance. The one thing that I am skeptic about Aaron Rodgers, the one thing that I just question is I know this is not the same scenario that Brett Favre dealt in when he left. But Brett, what did Brett Favre do? He went to the Jets. He went to Minnesota. He said that, hey, I can still play. Watch this. And so he pulled off a year or two, nothing too spectacular. So my question I linger around is if Aaron Rodgers, what is Aaron Rodgers trying to do? He's going to the Jets. Is he wanting to be another Brett Favre? Because if this fails, and he has another 2 or 3 years with New York, if this fails with the Jets, look at where he. This is going to be I will personally reflect him out. Oh, this is a repeat. Although maybe Aaron Rodgers wants to go. He's seen Peyton Manning do it a decade ago. Maybe Aaron Rodgers wants to see the success in a different team and show everyone it wasn't just Green Bay. I got a little bit left in the tank. Let me give you all I have. Let me enjoy the game. Be a Tom Brady, be a Peyton Manning. I don't know. That's what questions me. The other thing is with the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. Now, everyone has personal opinions, and I God forbid I'm not no medical staff. But you get banged up that hard last year. You get stretched out on you get carted off on a stretcher. And you got to take out for the rest of the season. Okay, head concussion. I am very protective over players. I don't want to see them hurt. And if you take a big injury, you sustain a big injury like Tua did last year, I'd question the future of your playing ability. As a personnel, just as an individual, I think that it's great to see Tua come back. But I think if anyone who has to learn a lot to change in this division or in this conference or in the NFL alone, I think Tua is going to have to approach this game a bit different, You can't be careless with how you carry yourself off on the field and just swing yourself into actions. You're going to also have to protect yourself when you are about to get hit. And also maybe find ways to prevent yourself getting hit. See, Tua, what he also relied on was, breaking tackles while he's in the pocket. He wanted to break one or two tackles, roll out to the outside, and either shoot it long way down the field or just bolt it. And that ain't going to work anymore for him. If it was me, I'd say hang up the boots. But he wants to give it another try. All right. It's hard to watch someone who knows who sustained a serious injury because you're only waiting for that injury to happen again. Damar Hamlin was a freak accident. It wasn't even an injury. He collapsed on the field. And so if he wants to make a comeback, you could only hope and pray for his health and well-being that he can withstand himself on the field and playing this aggressive game. When it comes down to someone getting hurt, especially when you say this is a concussion matter, you get concerned about, all right, what are you doing to put yourself in that position each and every time? And if you want to make that comeback, come back and figure out a way to avoid those situations. And I tell you, the AFC is a strong division. So this isn't going to be the last battle. Let's start off with the Buffalo Bills, who I just personally feel that the Bills will be at the top of this division. Okay? I feel like they'll take this division hands down still. I don't think much changes. All right, week 1, Monday Night Football against the Jets. I have them losing against the Jets because there's just something about Aaron Rodgers with this new team, this new energy, this new vibe, this new look that really says, all right, Aaron Rodgers, Jets, you're going to have a okay year, better than last year. You're going to come up with a couple big surprises. First game of the season, you come up with the big one, beating the Jets or beating the Bills. Jets beating the Bills. Week 2 and week 3, the Bills pick up victories and prediction status, followed by 2 losses against the Dolphins and against the Jaguars at home. They'll lose against the Giants. They'll pick up a victory against the Giants at home in week 6, followed by a win on the road in New England against the Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and then against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 8. Week 9, they'll lose against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. After that, they'll come home on another Monday Night Football and pick up a victory over the Broncos, Jets, and Eagles before their bye in week number 13. Week number 14, they'll drop against the Kansas City Chiefs, a victory with the Cowboys, a loss against the Chargers, followed by 2 wins to wrap up the season against the Patriots, against the Dolphins. I have prediction-wise the Bills finishing off 11-6, still at top of the AFC East going into the playoffs. One of the major questions that I run with the Bills in this factor is them going up against strong teams such as the Chiefs and right now the Bengals. Right now, the Chiefs and the Bengals have the Bills number. Okay? And especially when you get down into week 14 and you get down to week 9, it's going to be much harder to face them. I feel like overall this is a simple, easier schedule to face. I mean, you'll come up with a couple impressive victories because that's just the Bills just have been doing it for that much longer. But it's enough to get them into the postseason. All right, next team we're going to talk about here. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins. And I talk about this with Tua Tagovailoa, and for me, it's a big deal. I'm legitimately concerned about the health and the well-being of how Tua progresses throughout the course of this year. We saw what happened last year. It was scary. All right, it had everyone talking every single week for the remainder of the year. And, it was the combination of medical staff, NFL personnel's, commissioner opinions and, decisions, personal teams. I mean, the Dolphins should also been held liable. And you know what? Tua should be held liable. I understand that in a sense, okay? I understand that you're going to hide injuries because you want to play. But at what point do you hide your injuries from yourself? That's the one thing where I think I get scared of when you talk about these big sports like football, like baseball, like basketball. People play with injuries all the time. It's common, but when you have a serious health injury, such as concussions, and you decide to hide that, you decide, hey, I'm going to blow it off. And then, even though people, the fans, the announcers, the broadcasters, you can't tell me if the broadcasters and the fans can see that you're having trouble, you can't tell me that medical staff is telling you otherwise. I think that's a bunch of horseradish. All right. So we get down into the schedule for the Dolphins. I don't think they're coming away with a 500 record, unfortunately. I feel like this year is going to be a bit more of a struggle, but they're not going to finish in dead last. They'll lose against the first two teams of the season, week 1 and week 2 on the road against the Chargers and against the Saints. I think they have them. Nope, it's against the Patriots. I mistyped that. Excuse me. Followed by a victory against the Broncos and the Bills, week 3 and 4. A loss against the Giants, a win against the Panthers, a loss against the Eagles, a win against the Patriots, and a loss against the Chiefs, making them, what I got, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 before the bye week here in the beginning of the season. They'll lose against the Raiders at home, followed by a win against the Jets, a loss against the Commanders, a win against the Titans, and then they lose the remainder of the schedule. I predict the Miami Dolphins will wrap up the season 6-11 in third place in the AFC West. Those are predictions. Now, I'm always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say or your guys' thoughts on the schedules as well. So where do you guys predict the Buffalo Bills or the Miami Dolphins are going to finish off at? All right, we're going to take our last break of the program. When we come on back, we'll talk about the New England Patriots and the New York Jets, where they're going to finish off this year. You guys are listening to the Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. want to go ahead and congratulate once again to Gunther for being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, surpassing the Honky Tonk Man, and now he stands alone. Like I said, the interesting question is more so, who is now going to dethrone Gunther as the IC champ? All right, bottom half of the program. Be sure to tune us back in the rest of the week as we finish talking about the NFC, AFC, excuse me. We'll talk about the North and South tomorrow, and then we'll wrap up Thursday talking about the West and before the Chiefs and the Lions game here. All right, let's continue talking about the AFC East here, as we got the New England Patriots now. And this conversation, it's not, for me, it's not good news. Man, what do you say about the Patriots? Bill Belichick? Here's my take on Bill Belichick, really quick. I'm ready for him to go. You hold on to this head coach that has now showed you for the past 3 years that you just can't get over that. The fact that Tom Brady realistically held you together. Now, I think there's another point here to be made, is that this Patriots team is not the same team that it was when Tom Brady was under quarterback. And, it doesn't help that Mac Jones is not your Tom Brady or your Peyton Manning of the world. He's not even a young, exciting quarterback that you could get behind to say, all right, he's going to lead us down the promised land. But the rest of the team, the rest of the roster is not equivalent to being anywhere near as good as the Patriots were back in 2010, back in 2013, back in 2006. And when you have, and I think that's the first step. And unfortunately, when Tom Brady left, he also understood that this isn't the same team. Yeah, there is some talent behind Tom Brady that came to, all right, the Patriots were just going to be that good. Don't forget, Bill Belichick is a defensive coach, head coach. So Tom Brady, you go work and focus on your offense, and that's a good Ram, Wilms. Bill, you go focus on your defense, and there you have a 1-2 combination. Bill doesn't have a good defense right now, and you have a shitty offense. So how can you expect to be anything more than just an average football team? And in a division that you have a person who probably should have retired last year, in Tua Tagovailoa, he's coming back. So he's probably going to be stronger than ever. Aaron Rodgers, who he has a sense of, hey, I can still play in this division. Let me go over to the Packers, or let me go over to the Jets and prove to you that I can still play this division. And then you got one of the top teams in the AFC alone, in the Bills. So I really do have the Patriots finishing at the very bottom of this division here. They're dropping against the Eagles in week 1. They'll pick up the victory against Miami in week 2, followed by 3 consecutive losses against the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Saints before picking up a victory on the road in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Week 7 and 8 are losses against division Bills and Dolphins before winning against Washington and winning against Indianapolis in week 9 and 10 before their bye. Unfortunately, that's all the wins I have for them, as I predict that they will probably lose out the rest of the remainder of the season and wrap up the season on a 4-13 record. Yeah, it's not looking too pretty if you're asking me. But hey, all I can say is that I think, and if you're asking me, in my opinion, on how the Patriots, should move and grow from this season, I think there should be some conversation about either Bill Belichick, retiring himself, or it's Patriots need to decide, or it's to probably time, and it's probably best to part ways with Bill Belichick. I mean, get a new quarterback in there in the offseason, work with him, start building your team again, and do it under a different program. What worked in the past is obviously not working now. Something has to change. So, all right, let's talk about the New York Jets coming up right after this quick ad. All right, can't talk about this program without talking about our good friends at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. Join Steve and Dwaylen as they talk about everything professional wrestling, from WWE to AEW to TNA. If it's all wrestling information, they'll cover it in their Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, available on YouTube. So be sure to go subscribe and hit those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. I'm telling you, Dwaylen is a encyclopedia when it comes down to wrestling knowledge. You could also download them and listen to them on the road wherever you go, with on all major audio platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and much more. So check out Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. If you guys are also a fan of Steve and Dwaylen, they have individual podcasts that they host there on their own. Steve hosts the Cubicle Podcast, which is available audio only, and Dwaylen hosts the Intellectual Park Podcast, audio only as well, which they kind of take a break and drift aside from wrestling to talk about other personal great matters. So check them out today. All right, the New York Jets this season. I don't want to put too much hype into their year just because Aaron Rodgers moved over to the Jets, but it does give the Jets some hope because he's not coming on in here on a 1-year deal. Hold on 1 second. All right, so we talk about the Jets. I think this is more coordinated to understanding that, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is here not just on 1-year deal. Yeah, he signed a 2 to 3 year deal, which means that if this project, which the project means, hey, I want to go to the playoffs, I want to win a Super Bowl in a Jets uniform, this project doesn't have to happen in the first year. But the Jets need to take advantage because they have a really good quarterback at hands. Despite maybe injuries that he'll get along the way, he knows how to play with them, which is a good thing. And I do desperately believe that this can help improve the Jets. Now, they feel confident, they act confident, and behind that, I think coming into this first year, they may not make a huge impact of the season. Where I have them, they're probably going to surprise you, but this is probably set up for next year or the year after that. I just think about being a threat. I think would be key. All right, so here's how we go. Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. Pick up a victory, surprising victory. The pick up a victory against the Dallas Cowboys on the road. The picking up a victory against the Patriots at home. Their first loss will be handed to them by the Kansas City Chiefs at home against Patrick Mahomes. But they'll pick up a victory against the Broncos and then lose against the Eagles in week 6 before their bye. So they'll begin the season off 4-2 on the year. Then they will pick up a victory against the Giants before going on a little skid against the Chargers, against the Raiders, against the Bills, and even against the Dolphins. But then I have the Jets finding a way to win out from week 13 and beyond to make it to a 11-6 season, which is the same record that I have for the Buffalo Bills. I'm just doing this math. Bills are 4-0 in the division. Or 4-2 for the Jets. I think that the Bills will probably win the division still. Jets will hold the wild card spot. One of the wild card spots in the AFC. So there you go. Yeah, I got the Jets. You know, like I said, Aaron Rodgers is going to play a big factor. And it's going to be a good. I mean, let me put it this way: if you think my predictions with the Bills and the Jets being at the top, and if you think that the prediction was interesting, and you think that okay, they provide some entertainment, there's even more entertainment coming this way. So I got the Bills on top, followed by the Jets, then the Dolphins, and the Patriots at the bottom end. And there you have it. Well, guess what, people? Week 1 of the season is just a couple of days away. Got the Chiefs and the Lions. A couple of division wrap-ups. Jaguars, Colts, Panthers, Atlanta, Green Bay, Chicago, which is going to be a good one. Rams, Seahawks. You'll see the Raiders and the Broncos, the Cowboys and the Jets and the Giants, the Bengals, Browns, and the Bills and Jets Monday night. It's going to be a fun season. So we are going to talk more. We'll probably give our predictions. If, as of today, taking a first glance at what week 1 holds. I mean, I'm going to come back with our picks throughout the year. Kansas City's kind of a no-brainer for me. Right now, I'm holding a lot on Baltimore to win. I think Cincinnati could find a way to win in Cleveland, which I know they've had struggles in the past. I also am holding a Bears as of right now. The Bears in an upset over the Packers to begin week 1. Denver could upset Las Vegas in week 1 as well. Eagles, Seattle picking up victories. The Cowboys picking up their first victory of the year. And the Jets picking up a victory. So I tell you, there's a lot looking forward to this season. There's change in the wind, like they always say. But yeah. So tomorrow we will cover the AFC North in hour number 1, AFC South in hour number 2. We'll talk about the Reds and the Mariners game 2 of a 3-game series. And we'll try to squeeze in a little bit of NCAA football. It's interesting. There's only one football game on Thursday that I question why they're having it. I think it's earlier in the afternoon, so I'll have to double check. But interesting. Not really a game that you'd be like, oh, I have to check it or not. So, all right, that will conclude our episode. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button for more information. Add those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode throughout the week. All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you guys missed any of this, be sure to download this on the road. Later on this week, hopefully. If not, you guys can check us out on our webpage at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, that's all the time we have for it. My name is Justin. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until tomorrow, you guys take care. Thank you guys for watching the Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Take care. Have a great day.